Heartwarming story, single mom with 2 daughters discovers injured millionaire by the road. Amazing. The rain poured relentlessly, drumming against the car roof as Jessica squinted through the droplets cascading down her windshield. It was another long day, another Friday night filled with exhaustion. Mia and Lily, her 2 daughters, sat in the back seat, quietly huddled together with pillows and blankets from home. Every mile back to Maplewood seemed to stretch longer, weighed down by fatigue and the circumstances pressuring their small family. But Jessica remained focused. She wouldn't let the past defeat her. She was determined to carve a better life for the girls, even if it meant juggling 2 jobs to make ends meet. Suddenly, a blur of movement caught her eye, a figure sprawled beside the roadside. Heart racing, she pulled over, a sense of foreboding seeping into her chest. It was Michael, the millionaire who had once adorned magazine covers, now broken, injured. For a fleeting moment, doubt gripped her. Was this a sign to steer clear? A wealthy man like him might not appreciate help from someone like her. But then she recalled the hard days, the nights spent crying for her lost family, and that invisible thread of empathy tugged at her heart. Ignoring the warnings of her mind, she stepped out of the car, rain soaking her clothes within seconds. "Are you okay?" she called out, moving closer, her voice trembling with concern. He blinked up at her, eyes wide, recognizing not just a stranger, but a kind soul willing to reach out. I don't know," he stammered. Jessica nodded, not knowing how she'd help but feeling an undeniable urge to do something. As she drove him to the local hospital, the atmosphere shifted. Mia and Lily's curiosity piqued, and they whispered softly to one another in the back, whispering about their unexpected passenger. After Michael was treated, he insisted on paying for their dinner. With every bite of the pizza they shared in the hospital cafeteria, laughter began to fill the space between them. For the first time since her husband left, Jessica felt a flicker of hope, a connection that transcended their disparate worlds. But as whispers spread through Maplewood about this unlikely bond, judgment rained down harder than the storm outside. Neighbors who once smiled and waved morphed into judging figures, narrowing their eyes at Jessica whenever she passed. How could she? The whispers echoed. Each side-eye felt like a cut, each whispered comment a reminder that they were never equal to the life Michael had lost. Just as she began to find solace in Michael's support, a revelation struck. What brought him to this small town? Was he truly just a broken man looking for redemption? Or was there something more beneath the surface? As she wrestled with her own values, Jessica heard a soft knock on the door of her heart, the realization that compassion knows no economic status. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the community mounted. Jessica prepared for the neighborhood meeting with a knot in her stomach, uncertain of how her choices would be received. She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, standing in her living room, glancing at Mia and Lily. Would they ever understand the fight she was in? Would they see love in the space created for Michael? As she waited for the meeting to begin, whispers echoed in her mind, a battle between love and judgment, an emotional war few could grasp. But Jessica would face whatever came. In the throbbing silence, one thought pulsed like a drumbeat: could love truly bridge the gap between their lives? Jessica stood at the window, staring out at the dimming sky, lost in thought. Mia and Lily were in the other room, engrossed in their toys, giggling occasionally. The sound warmed her heart, a small reminder of the joy that existed in their little world, even amid brewing tension outside. The clock ticked down to the neighborhood meeting. Each second felt like a stone dropping into her stomach. She thought about Michael and the bond they had forged over pizza and shared stories. It felt so right, yet so wrong in this judgmental town. Gathering her resolve, she turned away from the window, determined to face her community. She had invited Michael, despite knowing the backlash it might provoke. The girls whirled around, sensing her anxiety. "Mom, are you okay?" Mia asked, her innocent eyes wide with concern. "Just nervous, sweetheart," she replied, forcing a smile. "But I think this meeting is going to be important." Lily tilted her head, her curls bouncing. "Is it because of the nice man from the hospital?" Jessica knelt before her daughters, heart hammering against her ribs. "A lot of people don't understand why I helped him, but I think kindness is important. It's okay to help others, no matter who they are." Their confusion was palpable, but trust replaced it in those little faces. "Okay, Mommy," Mia said, wrapping her arms around her little sister. "We believe you." The doorbell rang, echoing through the house, startling Jessica from her thoughts. She felt her pulse race. Was it Michael? In that moment, she didn't know if she was more excited or terrified. As she opened the door, Michael stood there, slightly soaked from the rain but radiating an energy she found hard to resist. "Hey, I hope I'm not too early," he said with an easy smile, his trauma momentarily forgotten in the warmth of the moment. "Not at all. I just want you to be ready for what's ahead," she warned, her voice low. "Whatever it is, I'm in this with you," he assured, stepping into her home, removing his shoes. Having him there felt both liberating and intimidating. The world outside felt so judgmental, yet here they were, two people whose lives had collided under unlikely circumstances. As they made small talk, a mixture of laughter and nervous energy filled the room. "Do you think the neighbors will be kind?" he asked, concern etching his features. "We can only hope," Jessica replied, unsure herself. Minutes turned to hours as guests arrived. One by one, neighbors trickled in, their faces showing a range of emotions from curiosity to outright disapproval. Jessica could feel the tension building as they glanced sideways at Michael, who stood together with her like he belonged. "Why don't you start off, Jessica?" the organizer suggested, nodding to her with an encouraging smile. She took a breath, her heart racing. Standing in front of her friends, her neighbors, people she'd known forever, made every nerve fire. "Thank you for coming," she began, voice quaking. "I know some might be wondering about Michael. How I could help him." She gestured toward Michael, who met her gaze with steady confidence. The silence loomed heavy until a familiar face, Margaret, broke it with a soft yet challenging tone. "Why him? You could have chosen anyone." Jessica's mind raced. "Because kindness should know no boundaries," she replied firmly, feeling a sense of clarity surging within her. "He's just a man who needed help, and honestly, I needed to help someone too. I'm not ashamed of that." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, some edges sharp with disagreement, while others were just blank, unsure how to react. What would come next? Would they accuse her? Would they drive a wedge between her and her daughters? As the conversation unfolded around her, she realized this was just the beginning, an almost transformative moment. Could she truly change their hearts? The meeting continued, but Jessica felt the shift in the air. She wasn't just defending her choices, she was standing up for love and compassion. Her heart swelled. She understood that no matter how hard it became, she choosing this path meant accepting love as a fierce and unwavering part of their journey. But just then, the atmosphere shifted again, darkening in a way that sent a chill through her spine. The door opened, and it wasn't just the rain that swept in, it was a figure cloaked in shadow. Jessica's breath caught, an instinctive fear gripping her as she realized who it was. What would this new arrival bring into the living room filled with hope, joy, and tension? The figure stepped inside, water droplets glistening like tiny jewels on its dark coat. Jessica's heart raced as her eyes adjusted to the dim light. It was Eric, the self-appointed arbiter of the neighborhood, his presence almost tangible with an air of authority that chilled her. "Jessica," he said, voice flat as a spilled glass of milk. Thought I'd find you all here. Whispers swelled around the room, a wave of unrest rippling through the crowd. Jessica's instincts screamed to protect her daughters, who still clutched their toys, oblivious to the rising tension. Michael shifted closer to her, a protective stance forming as he faced Eric, ready for whatever confrontation might unfold. "Why are you here?" Jessica blurted, trying to sound braver than she felt. "Because I care about our community," Eric replied, not bothering to hide the thinly veiled disdain in his tone. "We can't have people like him infiltrating our homes, our lives." The room felt electric, a mixture of support and apprehension in the air. Jessica's breath hitched as she felt the weight of every set of eyes focused on her, anticipation buzzing in the silence. "He's just a man who needs a chance," Jessica stated, her voice unwavering this time. "Are we going to close our hearts because of fear? Or are we going to embrace compassion?" The murmurs grew louder, some neighbors nodding in agreement while others shifted uncomfortably. Eric's face hardened. "Compassion can't cloud our judgment. He is still a stranger, Jessica. What will he bring into our lives?" Michael stepped forward. "I have my past, yes, but that doesn't define who I am now. I'm not here to disrupt anyone's life. I just want a place to heal." "But what about the dangers?" Eric countered, his voice rising slightly. "What if he brings trouble? You've put your girls at risk." Mia and Lily, sensing the emotional battle brewing around them, clutched each other, eyes wide with confusion. "Mommy?" Mia whispered, her voice small. Jessica knelt down, grounding herself in the moment with her daughters. "I'm here for you, always. This is about love, not just fear. And love doesn't look at what's past, it looks at what we can become." Eric scoffed, but the crowd seemed torn. Some nodded in agreement, while others looked skeptical, still rooted in their prejudices. "Others are going to take notice, Jessica," Eric warned, glancing at the neighbors. "You have to think about what you're doing for your family." A mix of anger and protective instinct coursed through her veins. "I am thinking about my family," she replied fiercely. "Choosing kindness is showing my daughters how we should live. Isn't that what we want for all our kids?" The room went silent, then began to hum with conversation as her words hung in the air. A neighbor, Sarah, finally stood up, visibly upset. "I've struggled too, feeling like I'm always judged. We all have stories. Maybe it's time we shared instead of judged." Jessica felt an ember of hope ignite within her. Maybe it was possible to shift the tide of negativity with authenticity. "See?" Michael said softly, his voice cutting through their collective tension. "We can connect through our struggles rather than our fears." The atmosphere brightened a fraction, and Jessica held her breath, hoping this could be a turning point, but Eric, noticing the shift, conjured an even darker resolution. "You may think you can change minds here, but you're risking everything," he snarled, before turning sharply on his heel. "We'll see how long unity lasts." Jessica's gut twisted. Did Eric's words hold weight? What repercussions would come from standing against him? "Mommy?" Lily's voice trembled as she looked at her. "Will he hurt us?" Jessica quickly reassured her daughter, but somewhere deep within, doubt gnawed at her. With Eric's threat still hanging like a dark cloud, uncertainty descended again. Was this meeting the start of transformation, or had they merely sown the seeds for greater division in their community? As the evening unfolded, Jessica felt a new sense of determination. She would fight for what she believed in, her family, and the connections that matter. But just as she began to find her footing, the door creaked open once more. A soft voice entered the space, echoing with something unexpected. "Everyone's waiting outside, just to speak with you, Jessica." Jessica's heart dropped, panic fluttering in her chest. Who else was coming, and what did they want? Jessica's breath caught in her throat, a swirl of fear and curiosity rising within her. She glanced around, faces of neighbors shifting from concern to intrigue. What could be waiting for her outside? A moment hung thick in the air, tension electrifying every corner of the room. Jessica exchanged a worried glance with Michael. He stepped closer again, still alert, ready to focus on her and her daughters rather than whatever storm was brewing. The door creaked open wider, and Jessica could just make out silhouettes in the dim light filtering in from the street. The voice beckoning her belonged to Sarah, standing just outside, her face illuminated by the flickering porch light. She peered into the room, urgency etched across her features. "Please, Jessica," Sarah pleaded softly. "It's about the meeting on the corner. They're concerned about Eric's threats, and they want to talk to you." Every heartbeat thundered in Jessica's ears. The courage she had felt just moments ago was being eclipsed by panic. Would they be joining Eric? What if they agreed with him? What if they didn't understand? "Who's out there?" Michael asked, keeping his eyes trained on the door, his stance protective. "Just the few who were with me earlier," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "They want to be heard. They support you, Jessica." Jessica felt her heart both expand and tighten. Support? Could it really be possible? "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily said, her small hand searching for Jessica's, gripping tightly. Jessica knelt down to her daughters, bringing their faces closer. "It's okay, my loves. Whatever happens, I promise to keep you safe," she assured them. But even she felt the trembling uncertainty in her voice. Michael placed a calming hand on her shoulder. "We can't hide from this. If they want to talk, we should face it. Together." She took a deep breath and straightened up, gathering strength from the warmth of her daughter's hands in hers. This was about more than her, it was about demonstrating resilience, showing her daughters that even in fear, they could find strength together. "All right," Jessica said, the quiet determination settling in her voice. "Let us see what they have to say." She pushed through the door, stepping into the evening chill. The air felt charged, crackling with emotions shared and unsaid. A dozen neighbors stood in a loose formation on her porch, faces turned expectantly toward her, a mix of apprehension and hope. As she stepped closer, Sarah led the group forward. "Jessica, we're with you. We know how hard this is, but we believe in connecting, not dividing. We want to share our stories. There are more of us who feel like you. More who have been judged, more who understand your fight." Jessica's heart raced. The solidarity in their voices warmed her, a flicker of hope igniting within. But just as she prepared to speak, a loud crash echoed down the street, cutting through their fragile gathering. A group of men appeared, including Eric, striding directly toward them, their presence looming dark and undeniable. "Looks like your little meeting got the attention of some real strength," Eric called out, a malicious grin cutting across his face. Jessica felt her stomach drop as fear clawed at her insides. Why now? Would they use this to tear her support apart? "Leave us alone, Eric," Sarah shouted back, stepping bravely forward. The tension thickened as everyone drew closer together, a human barrier against Eric's threat. Jessica's heart raced, uncertainty grappling with the first glimmers of unity she had seen. Would this be the moment where they found a way forward? As Eric's laughter echoed into the night, a single thought lingered. Was this confrontation the catalyst for the change she yearned for, or a fracture that would shatter everything she had begun to build? With uncertainty pulling at her, Jessica steadied herself. Shadows danced around them, but she knew, deep down, that some lights shine brightest in the dark. As Eric approached, breath heavy with malice, the decisive moment loomed just ahead. Would she fight? Would her community stand together? Together, Jessica whispered, finding a flicker of determination in the chaos. But as Eric's menacing shadow approached, she couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. Would they be taken down one by one, or would they rise to meet whatever challenges were thrown their way? The air crackled with tension as Eric's group advanced, their presence demanding attention. Jessica could feel the heat radiating from Michael, still standing close, ready to shield her and the girls. Her heart pounded. This was not just a battle for her, this was a moment that could shape everything for her daughters. "Stay behind me," she whispered to Lily and Emma, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. They nodded, their eyes wide with fear, but their small hands remained firmly by her sides. As Eric came closer, his grin twisted into something darker. "You think shouting louder makes you stronger?" he taunted, eyes darting over the gathering crowd. "You think you found friends? We'll see how long that lasts." Jessica felt Sarah's hand clasp around her wrist, a silent vow of solidarity sparkled in the darkness. "Don't let him intimidate you," Sarah urged, her voice fierce but low. Suddenly, a voice from the back of the crowd rang out, shaky but determined. "We're not afraid of you, Eric." It was Mrs. Jensen from 2 houses down, her chin raised defiantly. Jessica's heart swelled. Maybe together they could stand against him. Eric laughed mockingly, but the laughter began to falter. The gathering had grown, scattered noises of affirmation coming from the crowd. "We trust Jessica," they called out, emboldened. Jessica straightened, embers of courage igniting within her. "I won't back down," she declared, more to herself than to anyone else. "I'm tired of being afraid. We deserve to be heard, not silenced." Her voice carried beyond the porch, slicing through the icy evening air. Every word was a step away from fear, a step towards standing her ground. The neighbors murmured in support, shifting closer, forming a wall against Eric's hostile presence. "Group up," Michael directed, now more of a leader than a protective figure. "If we're going to face this, let us do it together." The community rallied, arms linking, the resolve palpable. Fear began to morph into a collective strength. Jessica felt a rush of gratitude and hope, reflected in the eyes of her neighbors, her friends. It was electrifying. Eric's dismissive grin faltered as he realized the tide was shifting. His men shifted uncomfortably, glancing at one another as the warmth of unity washed over the crowd. "You think this makes you safe?" he sneered, but there was doubt gnawing at the edges of his bravado. "We're not backing down," came a chorus from the crowd, as neighbors stood their ground, daring him to cross the line. Jessica took a step forward, heart racing. "We want to live in peace. No one deserves to be threatened or silenced." Her voice cracked with emotion, but it resonated deeply among those gathered. A woman nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "You're not alone, Jessica. We'll face this with you." In that moment, Jessica realized she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for every soul who had ever felt powerless. For every voice that had been stifled. But just as the power in their unity sparked something alive and beautiful, Eric's demeanor shifted. His anger bubbled openly now, and it was clear he wouldn't back down without a fight. "You think this little show intimidates me? I'll tear you apart," he shouted. Jessica's heart plummeted. The fear began to creep in again. Would this gathering be their strength, or would it become their downfall? As the wind whipped around them, carrying with it the uncertainty of what might happen next, Jessica faced Eric head-on. The strength of her community pulsed around her, but it was up to her to lead them now, to stand firm. It felt like the moment before a storm. The air was thick with tension, and as she prepared to speak again, a crack of lightning illuminated the sky behind Eric. Would this be their turning point, or just the beginning of a dark fight ahead? Together, she whispered again, this time louder. Would that be enough to light the way through the darkness? A heavy silence settled over the crowd as Jessica held her breath, waiting, all eyes on her, all hearts intertwined in this fragile moment. The streetlights flickered, flickering like their hope, casting long shadows that danced among the survivors gathered. In that stillness, the storm within each of them grew louder. Eric took a step forward, his posturing more aggressive now, the bravado circling him like a flame. The mocking smile had faded, replaced by a fierce glower. He was no longer the predator watching the prey, now, he was being challenged, and the fight was infusing him with a palpable fury. Jessica's instincts flared. Game on. Look around, Jessica, he sneered, gesturing wildly. These people? They're just waiting to save their own skins. You'll be all alone when the real trouble starts. But Jessica could see their determination, their loyal glances toward her. She noticed the way Michael tightened his grip on Sarah's hand, the strength forged in fear and resilience boiling beneath their skin. This was their moment, this was their declaration of independence. She needed to fan the flames of courage, forge a path through this storm. Maybe they're not standing behind me for protection. Maybe they're standing beside me for change. She spoke louder now, letting her voice ring clear and ironclad. What good does silence do us? We're sick of being bullied into silence, Eric. We want a voice. We refuse to back down. Together, the crowd echoed her words, their confidence surging and pulsing like electricity. A swell of supportive murmurs replaced the previous anxiety. Jessica felt as if she could touch the fire igniting around her. Gritting her teeth, she added, "We deserve to live without fear. We support each other." Eric could sense the shift, the ground giving way beneath him, and rage flared in his eyes. "You think you're some kind of hero? This is just a bunch of scared people looking for someone to lead them, and you're not cut out for this." Jessica stood firm, that storm of emotions swirling within her, a potent mix of fear, hope, and defiance. "You think this is about me?" she shouted back, her heart hammering. "This is about us. It's about every one of us who have been silenced, bullied, and marginalized. You may think you have power, but you don't know what we can accomplish together." A murmur of anger rippled through the crowd, resonating deep within them all. Jessica could feel it, a collective awakening fueled by her determined declaration. The barrier Eric thought he had crafted around them was cracking under the weight of their unity. Across the street, a few neighbors began to pick up stones, signaling the start of a transformative surge. No longer shackled, they equipped themselves with their own strength. They were no longer merely responding, they were taking control. "I will not allow you to harm us," she continued, her voice rising above the commotion. Each word was ringing like a war drum. "And I'm not the only one standing here. We fight for our dignity, our peace." But just then, another clap of thunder cracked across the sky. Rain began to fall, but instead of dampening spirits, it felt liberating, like cleansing wounds from a long, dark illness. People began to stomp their feet, calling in their own defiance. "Onward, together!" yelled Michael, his face a picture of fierce determination. In the face of renewed focus from Eric, Jessica steadied herself. There was no turning back now, the fight was near. Would their combined hearts ignite a spark powerful enough to vanquish this threatening force, or would the storm bring ruin upon them? As she took a breath, preparing for whatever came next, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this confrontation was only the beginning. What was Eric truly capable of? What hidden schemes lurked behind that glare? A storm was brewing, and it was now or never. Would they embrace this moment, or would fear take the upper hand once more? The next few seconds dragged on like an eternity, pregnant with unpredictable potential. Jessica knew they had to act, and fast. But as the first drops of rain soaked into the earth below, she felt a dread creep through her. What if their courage wasn't enough? Would the chaos push them apart instead of bringing them together? Jessica's heart raced as she locked eyes with Eric. In that fierce gaze, she saw all his anger, all his chaos, but she also saw fear. It was a powerful reminder that behind every bully lies a weakness, a vulnerability no one else wants to acknowledge. "Let us show him, guys," she called out, rallying her people. "Let us prove it's not just about words. It's about action." The rain fell harder, cascading down in sheets now, yet it only stirred their momentum. Each drop felt like a purging of doubts. A few members of the crowd began stepping forward, a subtle movement at first, but it grew like a wave. With newfound bravery, they mirrored Jessica, faces set, shoulders squared. There was a collective shift, like a tide turning, and Eric realized he was losing control. "Stop them!" he barked, thrusting his finger toward the crowd as if to bulldoze them back. But now, it felt like they were turning into an iron wall, no longer mere spectators. They were the storm, standing tall against his thunder. Jessica led the way, her steps quickening to meet Eric's glare with brute courage. The distance between them diminished. "You don't scare us, Eric," she yelled, her voice slicing through the cascading rain. "We refuse to be silent any longer. We will not cower or be hunted." Michael stood by her side, and together, they surged forward. "This isn't just your playground anymore, Eric. We take the playground back." His fists clenched at his sides, a fire igniting in his eyes. The steady drum of rain intensified, each drop sequentially synchronizing with their heartbeat. Other voices joined in a chorus of shared determination echoing around them. "Together!" they shouted, the word resonating like the deep toll of a bell, carrying powerful implications, electrifying the air around them. But Eric would not be backed down so easily. He stood his ground, a heavy, dark cloud hanging above them. "You're making a mistake," he fumed, and for a split second, his confidence quaked. "You're just a group of misfits. What are you hoping to achieve?" "We're hoping to achieve freedom," Jessica shouted, realizing how vast and unfathomable their definition of freedom could be. It wasn't just about their safety, it was about reclaiming their lives, their dignity. It was the hope that had been stripped away, piece by piece, now building back strong. The rain provided a soundtrack to their fight, each drop memorizing their cries. They were not just survivors, they were fighters. As gusts of wind whipped around them, moving through the crowd, the energy pulsed. With that realization came a wave of courage, solidifying their connection further. But just as they reached the apex of this mounting courage, Eric did the unexpected. Rage boiling, he brandished a rock, a shared threat made real. "Get back. This is your only warning." His threat hung in the air, slicing through the momentum they had built. Jessica felt an icy chill creep through her chest, battling the warmth of bravery that had taken root. Here they were, at the cusp of change, but the question burned bright: would fear lead them back into submission, or could they push through this final barrier? In that precarious heartbeat, she realized that anything could happen. "Stay close," she urged the crowd while her mind raced. What would catalyze their ultimate stand? Could they stand firm together even against this violent tide? Jessica looked back, gauging their resolve as the rain poured around them. Fear was palpable, but so was courage. And she knew they'd made it this far. The moment lingered, heavy with possibility. What would they choose next? "We stand together," she cried, raising her voice above the chaos, and felt her heart align with a deeper, shared rhythm. Would it be enough to keep them united, or was Eric ready to unleash something truly dangerous? Jessica's voice rang like a bell, reverberating through the rain-soaked air. The crowd was gathering strength from her words, but as Eric brandished the rock, a deeper sense of fear gripped Jessica. They had come so far. They had to make a choice, and it had to come now. "Do we let his anger back us down?" she shouted, her confidence rising in raw defiance. She focused on Eric, the precarious rock in his hand, the quivering rage in his expression. Did he realize how close he was to losing everything? It was time to show him not just their unity, but their resolve. The crowd shifted, their eyes darting among each other, looking for reassurance. Glancing back, Jessica saw the mix of fear and determination etched on their faces. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about all of them. It was about the life they'd all been forced to live under Eric's umbrella of intimidation. "Look at us," she urged, raising her hands to her sides like a teacher commanding attention. "Look at what we can do when we band together. We're not just misfits, we are family. And families don't abandon each other." With that, a ripple of certainty wound its way through the crowd. Jessica smiled, a glimmer of hope illuminating her heart. There it was, unity forged in the storm, glistening and powerful. One brave girl, Lily, stepped forward. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice steady, eyes fiery with rebellion. "You threaten us, but we want to let you win." Michael stepped in beside her, mirroring the defiance of this young warrior. "None of us are afraid," he echoed, and the sentiment grew. "Let him try to take us down. Together, we're stronger." The crowd surged, a wave of fervor crashing into the rock Eric held above his head. Jessica felt the air around them crackle with energy. They were no longer merely standing, they were moving as one. It didn't matter if they were misfits or outcasts. They were fighting for their right to exist without fear. Eric's eyes flared with fury and confusion. The uncertainty that had flashed across his features before returned, deeper this time. Suddenly, the storm had shifted, and he was now standing in its path. "Back off!" he yelled, eyes wild. One foot shifted backward, an instinctive move. He was losing his grip on this game of intimidation. Jessica saw her opportunity. "You've bullied us long enough," she called out, her heart pounding with fierce rhythm. "If you want us to back down, then you need to back down." With every shout from the crowd, each heartbeat echoed an unshakable truth. They were no longer afraid. Eric was but a boy shrouded in shadows, and in that moment, Jessica sensed that the final storm within him could either break him or redeem him, but at that moment, her eyes widened in realization. Behind Eric, another figure emerged, a teacher, Mr. Hayes, rushing toward them, eyes fixed resolutely on Eric. "What are you doing?" he shouted, the authority in his voice cutting through the chaos. "Stop this madness." The crowd stilled, an electric silence settling between them and Eric. Hope crackled like lightning, and for the first time, it felt like there was a chance for change, a chance to dismantle the power he clung to so tightly. With Mr. Hayes stepping forward, would Eric crumble under the weight of true authority? Would fear finally have its redemption, or would this confrontation escalate into something none of them could contain? The moment hung suspended, each person breathless with the possibility of what would unfold next. The air felt charged, tempers boiling, hearts racing. Everything was on the line, and Jessica could feel it. Would they finally reclaim their right to be seen, to be respected, to be free? The silence hung thick, cloaking the group in uncertainty. Eric's grip on the rock loosened slightly, his eyes darting from Jessica's confident face to Mr. Hayes, who stood firmly in front of him. For a split second, Jessica felt a flicker of hope. Could this be the moment everything changed? "Put the rock down, Eric," Mr. Hayes commanded again, his voice steady and strong. "This won't solve anything." Eric's features tightened. He swallowed hard, caught in a whirlpool of emotions. The rage that had fueled him moments earlier began to wane, replaced by confusion and fear. The crowd watched him, their collective breath held, waiting for his next move. Jessica could see the battle within him, the boy wrestling with the shouts of the leader he felt he had to be. "Why should I?" Eric's voice trembled, betraying the cracks in his facade. "They're nothing. Just a bunch of losers." Lily stepped forward again, fire igniting her spirit. "We're not losers. We're people. Real people. You taught us what fear is, but we refuse to let it own us anymore." The air shifted. Hope surged back into the crowd like a gust of wind pushing through trees. No longer were they hiding in darkness, they were stepping into the light. Jessica could feel the electric charge pass through her, sparking courage in her heart. "Eric," Mr. Hayes said softly now, his tone dropping to a more personal level. "You don't have to prove anything. You can let us help you." At that, Eric's defenses crumbled further. His eyes, wild with anger moments before, were now filled with uncertainty. A shadow of vulnerability crossed his face. Fear was a tyrant he had long embraced, gripping him tightly, and now, standing exposed under the weight of his actions. He wavered. Jessica took a step forward, her heart pounding against her ribcage. No one is denying how tough you've had it. But fighting us only makes it harder. We can work together. Let us show you that there's a way out of this. The tremor of her words reached him. Jess could see the flicker of recognition in Eric's eyes, as if he was beginning to understand that leaders inspire through courage, not fear. But in that moment, a rush of doubt crept over Eric. You think you can just face me down, huh? All of you? He raised the rock slightly again, but this time, it seemed more a question than a threat. Strength isn't measured by wielding a weapon, Michael chimed in, inching closer to the front. It's about lifting one another up. His voice was steady, unwavering, a pillar of hope among the tremors of fear, and there it was again, the growing movement of connection and unity behind Jessica, the crowd shifting, voices joining together, a chorus of support rising to surround them. They were no longer defined by the games of intimidation. They were a collective force against it. Eric appeared to be shrinking, a boy trapped in a role he never truly wanted, battling against everything he had put forth. Jessica took a breath, conscious of the collective hold on silence that hung around them as they all awaited his response, but the moment stretched, hanging like the clouds above, heavy with expectation. Would he let go of the rock and embrace the connection they were all offering? Or would he lash out once more, letting old habits choke the possibility of something new and brighter? With every heartbeat, Jessica felt the tension build, knowing she and her friends had brought them this far. Would they move forward together, or would they be forced to fight again? She couldn't shake the steely resolve forming in her gut. And as Eric's gaze dropped, the crowd leaned in, breathless in anticipation. Would he finally let fear go and step into the light, or would he remain a prisoner of his own making? What happens next could change everything, Jessica thought, as the reality of the moment enveloped them all. Eric's grip on the rock trembled, uncertainty clouding his features. The fire that had once burned bright in his eyes dulled, replaced by flickers of doubt. Jessica felt the unity behind her swell like a wave, gathering strength despite the storm still brewing. This was their moment. Let us not make this harder than it needs to be, she said, her voice steady and commanding. We can choose a different path, one where we all grow together. Her words hovered in the air, rippling through the gathered neighbors like a breath of fresh air. Every heartbeat echoed the sentiment, a new wind coursing through the crowd that had once feared him. Eric shifted again, glancing around at the faces staring back with a mix of apprehension and empathy, all of them willing to meet him halfway. Do you really believe that? Eric's voice cracked, revealing the heavy weight he had been carrying all this time. His tough exterior slipped just a bit, and Jessica could see it, the boy hiding behind the mask of a bully. I do believe that, she replied fiercely. I want to believe that for every person here, including you. At that moment, a small spark ignited in Eric's eyes. Jessica held her breath, watching for a sign. Would he step back, or would the rage consume him again? The night deepened as the rain continued to drench them, but it only heightened the tangible connection forming together. They could break through barriers, heal old wounds, and cultivate understanding. Give me a reason, Eric whispered, voice strained like a child begging for clarity. Why should I trust you? Because trust is the first step, Jessica started, her heart racing with the sincerity of her words. And because I see you, really see you. Behind that rock, there's more to you than anger. We all have our struggles. We've been hurt too. The crowd murmured in agreement, and Jessica could feel wings of hope fluttering around, lifting spirits. They'd come this far, but would it be enough to pull him from his darkness? Together, she urged, her voice desperate with belief. We can lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. We're not just fighting for our own peace, we're fighting for each other's futures. The raw energy swirled, and as if struck by a spark, Eric let the rock tumble from his fingers and crash into the puddles below, sending droplets splashing. The collective gasp echoed through the small gathering, a wave of disbelief washing through them. Maybe you're right, he murmured, looking lost. It's just no one has ever wanted to be my friend before. Jessica nearly stumbled at the admission, feeling her heart twist. You are not alone, Eric. You don't have to face anything alone anymore. The crowd began to inch closer, not in intimidation but in shared vulnerability. We all find ourselves in dark places sometimes, Michael added, his calm demeanor settling a soothing balm over the tension. Let us turn this moment into something powerful. We're here for you now. And we can face this together. Jessica watched Eric swallow hard, the emotions dancing across his face like shadows in the rain. Then something shifted within him, a flicker of realization breaking through the haze. I don't want to be that person anymore, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I just don't know how. Start with us, Jessica encouraged. Let us show you. It's time to build a bridge instead of walls. Silence enveloped them for a heartbeat, until one brave neighbor began to clap, hesitant at first but soon joined by others who felt it too, the weight of possibility. United, they were cascading like a rising tide behind Jessica, embodying the spirit of hope and redemption. Eric's shoulders relaxed, and without knowing it, he took a small step forward, revealing the hint of gratitude in his eyes. It was a monumental shift, and Jessica felt it in her bones. His journey back to connection had begun. In that electrifying moment where the storm began to fade, Jessica glanced down at her daughters, their small hands clutching her waist. They were the heart of her courage. Turning back to the crowd, she felt more alive than ever, filled with purpose, as free as the rain washing over them. Their eyes met, each face reflecting the warmth of unity, the promise of community. Together, we'll create the future we dream of, she declared, raising her hands high in the air. Let love guide us toward healing. Let this be our commitment. With every person lifting their voices in agreement, laughter started to break through the clouds, signaling the first steps towards something new and beautiful. Together they would dream of brighter days ahead. And with that, Jessica's heart soared with joy. This was the transformation they all needed, the rebirth of hope blossoming amid the remnants of conflict and fear. The rain began to lighten, revealing the twinkling stars above, a promise twinkling through the darkness. Now, it's your turn to be part of this journey. You need to subscribe now to stay connected with inspiring stories like Jessica's. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make sure more hearts find hope. Comment your feelings about this amazing transformation below. And don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this change. Your actions can make a difference.